Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold! Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yep, that's me. Good morning. It is Wednesday, June 11th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. A mix of sun and clouds today. A beauty of a day on the way. High 84. Tonight and overnight clear. Low 69, and then Thursday sunshine, warmer, the high going to be 89. If you're walking out the door with us right now, 62 in clear in Rye up in Westchester County, 64 in clear in Homedale over in New Jersey, and it's 65 and foggy right outside our Midtown studios.
The top 5 at 5.
It's Mikie versus Jack in the race for governor in New Jersey. Anti-ICE protests take over New York City streets. Renters rejoicing over new rules in New York City. There was another attack on an MTA worker. And what's with the rain every single weekend? All right, let's get into it at 5:01. It is Jack Ciattarelli versus Mikie Sherrill in the race for governor in New Jersey. Were the two winners in the Republican and Democratic primaries last night. Relatively easy races, especially show for Jack Ciattarelli, who maybe 15 minutes after the polls closed, they had declared him the winner. He just clobbered the competition on the Republican side. A little bit closer for Mikie Sherrill, but she won rather easily as well.
So, New Jersey, are you ready? I am too.
The crowd at her party, election night party in Morristown, revved up, ready to party.
Tonight I pledge to you, we're going to build something worthy of our state and worthy of our kids.
All right.
With all of you, we can take on the tough fights and win. You saw it in this election. The Democratic Party is ready for the fight.
All right, so in her victory speech last night, she went after Jack Ciattarelli quickly. She called him a lackey of the president, taking lots of shots at him last night.
Jack has pledged to implement an abortion ban and to defund Planned Parenthood. I am ready to shake up the status quo. And Jack is the status quo. He's not changed. He's a rerun. He's a ghost of elections past. And I have fought for new opportunities my entire life.
Okay, the crowd just as revved up down in Homedale, New Jersey for Jack Ciattarelli, the former state lawmaker, small businessman. He easily defeated his 4 rivals in the Republican primary.
I accept your nomination as the Republican candidate for governor of New Jersey. Tonight, because of you, we won all 21 New Jersey counties. We won because our campaign is about people, not politics.
So Ciattarelli heads into the general election seeking to win back the governorship for Republicans. That's after 2 straight Democratic victories, hoping he can build on that 2021 performance when he came within 3 percentage points of defeating Governor Phil Murphy, who, of course, is term limited out.
To the Republicans who supported my opponents, I respect your choice. The primary is now behind us. Let us unite. Let us unite.
All right, and we were talking to voters, seeing what was on their minds as they headed to the polls yesterday.
There's a lot of Democrats that are frustrated with this state, and I think Jack, being a moderate, really does appeal to them. For sure, unaffiliated and independents like me.
Great night for New Jersey with Jack Ciattarelli. Great night.
All right, so a win in November for Mikie Sherrill would mean she'd be the second female governor. Remember, Christine Todd Whitman was governor for 2 terms. New Jersey has been reliable reliably Democratic in Senate and presidential contests for decades, but these odd-year races for governor have tended to swing back and forth, so that's good news for Jack Ciattarelli. More from voters who were casting their ballots yesterday.
I'm coming from Jersey. I live in East Orange, and I'm looking for lower taxes.
I guess make a change for the positive, lower costs somehow, invest in our schools. I think that has not been the priority.
The property tax is high, and also controlling all the new construction.
All right, so now it is on to November. No doubt it'll be an interesting race over in the Garden State. 5:04. Let's bring it back here into the city. Dozens arrested at demonstrations that took over Foley Square, marched through Lower Manhattan. This was Tuesday evening into last night. All these protesters upset about the ICE and deportations and the Trump's administration crackdown on immigrants. Thousands made their way through Tribeca, marching through Lower Manhattan to several federal immigration courts, while ICE has been detaining migrants over the past few weeks. So here were some of the protesters last night.
And I think it's my obligation as a citizen to come and speak for those who are living in the shadows. Everything that's going on is just heartbreaking, and it's really close to home.
Now, these protests were nothing like the ones out in Los Angeles, but police did make some arrests for some unruly crowds. It comes, as Mayor Adams had warned earlier this week, the violence and lawlessness would not be tolerated during protests here in the city.
I want ICE out. I want due process for everybody, like the Constitution promises.
Now, in the event that the protests were to escalate, that wasn't the course last night, but NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch said the NYPD will be fine without federal intervention, including sending the National Guard in. She says the city has plans and resources in place to respond to any civil unrest, and they did so last night with, we kept getting varying numbers and couldn't get the NYPD to confirm that as of this morning, but it was a couple dozen arrests of protesters.
If New York City stands up, if the country stands up, it doesn't matter how many National Guard troops they have, we can peacefully stand up and resist.
Now, it has seemed this way with these protests on the left as they try to smash a whole bunch of different causes into one protest. So this was supposed to be an anti-ICE deportation protest last night, but there was a fair amount of people who were carrying Palestinian flags. And that got some demonstrators upset because they say, wait a minute, we were here for one thing and now you're here for another thing.
And as an Israeli citizen, it's important for me to show people that this is the only democracy in the entire Middle East and that these young people are very stupid. This is the generation that ate Tide Pods. Do you see? This is the generation that ate Tide Pods. That's what this has become.
Okay, all right. WABC News Time 5:08. All's good at Grand Central Terminal today, but there was this electrical fire that caused a big smoke condition at Grand Central Terminal yesterday. It led to major service issues on the trains.
It took several hours and about 100 or more firefighters to locate an electrical fire in the deep basement along the 300 level tracks of the Long Island Railroad.
Yeah, more details coming into us today. 3 firefighters, 1 civilian suffered life-threatening injuries due to the heavy smoke condition. At one point, it was essentially like zero visibility below.
Absolutely zero visibility down there. Firefighters were met with heavy smoke and a significant amount of fire when they ultimately located the room where the fire was coming from.
Okay, so it was an electrical fire that was deep below Grand Central, but the good news, like I said, all good so far this morning. Trains seem to be rolling on time. Broker fees on apartment shoppers in New York City will officially become a thing of the past beginning today. The FAIR Act that was passed in the City Council overwhelmingly last November now goes into effect. So the average renter in New York was paying nearly $13,000 in upfront broker fees. That now goes away, which should help low-income renters. Now, opponents of this law say it will simply lead to higher rental costs, which makes sense because if the owners now have to pay those broker fees, guess who they're going to pass them on to? The renters. But they'll probably pass them on in monthly payments that are added to the rent. So in the end, they'll probably pay the same amount, but they won't have the upfront costs. Now, a federal judge yesterday denied to block this law, saying the law does not pose any constitutional issues, but the owners say they will be back in court trying to stop this. 5:10. Suffolk County Police confirming a body found in a Long Island pool last month is that of a missing fugitive wanted for killing his own dad.
Suffolk County Police had believed the body found in an East Shoreham pool back on May 25th was 23-year-old Matthew Zoll, as cops believed he allegedly stabbed his 61-year-old father, Joseph Zoll, to death in their home in Rocky Point last November. The man who owns the pool where the younger Zoll was found, in a twist, is reportedly a member of the U.S. Marshals Regional Task Force that had been looking for him. Zoll's cause of death not yet determined. James Flippin for 77 WABC News.
WABC News Time 511. Do endorsements make a difference? I'm not really sure, but this is a big one if they do. Former Mayor Mike Bloomberg weighing in on the race for mayor.
In a statement, Mayor Bloomberg says former Governor Andrew Cuomo's experience and government know-how stands above the pack in a crowded Democratic primary race. He says above all, the former governor has the skills the city needs to lead us forward. It didn't take long for Cuomo's opponents in the race to criticize the endorsement. Candidate Zohran Mamdani says Bloomberg's endorsement makes sense because Cuomo will, quote, keep the broken status quo.
WABC News Time 511. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass says a local emergency curfew put into effect for downtown Los Angeles last night seemed to work. This, of course, is due to all the anti-ICE protests, some of them very violent, that have taken place over the last 5 days.
I wanted to let the city know that I have declared a local emergency and issued a curfew for downtown Los Angeles to stop the vandalism, to stop the looting.
So this was an area roughly about 1 square mile. It went into effect about 8 o'clock last night and stays in effect till 6 o'clock, of course, West Coast time this morning. The LAPD chief said that anybody who was found in this designated curfew area who wasn't exempt from being there would be subject to arrest.
Many businesses have now been affected by or vandalized. Last night there were 23 businesses that were looted, and I think that if you drive through downtown LA, the graffiti is everywhere. If you do not live or work in downtown LA, avoid the area. Law enforcement will arrest individuals who break the curfew, and you will be prosecuted.
So it comes after demonstrators were seen throwing all kinds of objects at guards guarding a federal building over the weekend into Monday, and police responded with flashbangs, tear gas, and some non-lethal rounds like rubber bullets. Now, what we've been told is so far relatively quiet last night. This is as the Trump administration sending 2,000 more National Guard troops to Los Angeles, which Governor Newsom says would be likely to increase tensions there.
I have 394 National Guard men and women down at the border. I imagine they may even be pulled for this theatrical display of toughness by a president of the United States who's unhinged.
Now, here's what the governor says. He says the money being spent to send those National Guard members, Marines, to Los Angeles could be better used to help with the aftermath of the wildfires and the bid to get fentanyl off the streets.
Forest management, protecting communities, vulnerable communities against summer and wildfire season. We're removing them from task forces that we've created to deal with fentanyl interdiction.
The Pentagon is putting the roughly 60-day cost of deployments to Los Angeles at about $134 million. But President Trump says it's all to liberate Los Angeles. He says the anti-ICE protests prove that the once beautiful city has turned into a trash heap.
The agitators are throwing firebombs and Molotov cocktails, lighting vehicles ablaze. You saw the cars that were burning, mobbing police officers and ICE officers.
And he again called the protesters invaders, insurrectionists.
They're hurling bricks and cinder blocks at law enforcement. Did you see they're breaking up the sidewalks and the curbs, breaking it up with big, strong hammers? These guys are professionals. These are not amateurs.
Meanwhile, Americans weighing in on President Trump's decision to send Marines to L.A.
According to a flash poll from YouGov, 47% of respondents disapproved of Trump's military deployment unemployment, while 34% agreed and 19% said they weren't sure. The poll also found results were split along party lines, with Democratic respondents 6 times as likely to disagree with Trump's military involvement than Republicans. I'm Brian Shook.
WABC News Time 5:15. Let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Happy Hump Day. Good morning, Justin Alec.
Happy Hump Day. Good morning to you, Noma Layden. Start here on the diamond out in Queens. Jeff McNeil doubled home the winning run in the 10th inning, and the Mets rallied past the Washington Nationals 5-4 in the opener of a 3-game series between NL East foes. Juan Soto hit a solo homer and an RBI double for the Mets against his original team. He also threw out a runner at home plate from right field. Pete Alonso delivered a tying single in the 8th after Soto's 2-out double trimmed it to 4-3. New York, which has the best record in the National League, has won 4 straight and 13 of 16 to move 19 games over 500 for the first time since finishing 101-61 in 2022. Up next for the Mets, the lefty David Peterson gets a start in tonight's middle game of this 3-game set with Washington, set for a 7:10 p.m. first pitch from Citi Field. In Kansas City, Austin Wells hit a 3-run homer and finished with 5 RBI. Aaron Judge hit the 3rd longest homer in the majors this season, and the Yankees routed the Royals 10-2 in the opener of a 3-game series. Max Fried bounced back from his first loss of the season, pitching 7 innings of 2-run ball for New York. Wells matched his career high for RBI in a game. Judge added a bloop RBI single in the 6th inning when the Yankees put the game away with 5 more runs off the Kansas City bullpen. Cody Bellinger drove in one of them with the 1,000th hit of his career. Judge has reached safely in 61 of 65 games this season, including every game the Yankees have played on the road. Up next for the Yanks, Clark Schmidt will start tonight's middle game of this 3-game set with the Royals set for a 7:40 p.m. first pitch from Kansas City. And tonight, we're looking ahead to an 8:30 p.m. tip-off between the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Indiana Pacers for Game 3 of the NBA Finals. That series is tied, of course, at 1 game apiece. That is your sports now, and I'm Justin Alec on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:19. While Joe was giving you the traffic report, the LAPD was updating some of the numbers from the anti-ICE protests there. So last night, they say they made some what they called mass arrests. Now, before the curfew that was put in place for the first time last night at 8 p.m. Los Angeles time, they had made 200 arrests on Tuesday alone. They expected to make a lot more than that during the course of the overnight. Of course, it's only 2:19 in the morning in Los Angeles right now, but they called them mass arrests. So, of course, when those numbers come in, we'll pass them on to you. And we've seen these protests spread. We told you about the ones in New York City last night. Dozens of people were arrested here, but police called the protests mostly peaceful. Same goes for Chicago, where thousands marched through city streets there yesterday. Multiple demonstrators were arrested in the Windy City, as well as some officers in riot gear followed these crowds as they marched through the streets of Chicago. 5:20. 4 senior Biden White House aides have agreed now to testify before the House Oversight Committee.
According to a committee aide, the testimonies, which are set to begin on June 24th, come as part of a probe into former President Biden's mental acuity while in office. The former president has maintained he drove his own decisions during his presidency, and there's no evidence aides acted on his behalf in response to his ailing health. The Senate will hold a hearing on the matter next week. I'm Lisa Taylor.
The judge in the Brian Kohberger trial considering a defense motion to delay that trial, which seems like it's been delayed forever.
Defense attorneys say they need more time to go through the massive amount of evidence connected to the man accused of killing 4 University of Idaho students in 2022. Prosecutors say the trial should start at the planned date in August. The judge is expected to rule on the motions June 18th.
WABC News Time 5:21. Up to Massachusetts, Karen Reed said she will not testify testify in her murder retrial there. Reed made the comments to reporters yesterday, leaving the courthouse.
I'm not testifying. They have heard my interview clips. They've heard my voice. They've heard a lot of me.
A biochemist who's likely the defense last witness took the stand. This was late yesterday afternoon. Will resume testimony this morning. The defense is calling witnesses as it works to prove that Reed is being framed by police for the death of O'Keefe, her husband. Reed's accused of hitting him with their SUV, leaving him to die in a snowstorm back in 2022. Down to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. President Trump was there yesterday to help kick off the Army's 250th birthday, telling hundreds of gathered troops that Saturday, when he holds his military parade, is going to be a huge day in D.C.
You know, recently other countries celebrated the victory of World War I. France was celebrating, really. They were all celebrating. The only one that doesn't celebrate is the USA, and we're the ones that won the war.
Saturday's parade to honor the Army's 250th birthday expected to draw hundreds of thousands of people. The president praising the troops here, calling them the greatest fighting force.
1775 to June 2025, those foolish enough to challenge America's Army have been met with unyielding strength, unbreakable spirit, and unstoppable, overwhelming force. The American people, American soldier will chase you down, crush you, and cast you into oblivion. That's what happens, unfortunately.
And the president warning against protests at Saturday's military parade in D.C. He issued the stern warning, speaking from the Oval Office yesterday.
For those people that want to protest, they're going to be met with very big force. And I haven't even heard about a protest. But, you know, this is people that hate our country. But they will be met with very heavy force.
Now, prep is already underway for this parade.
We're going to have a fantastic June 14th parade, Flag Day. It's going to be an amazing day. We have tanks, we have planes, we have all sorts of things. And I think it's going to be great. We're going to celebrate our country for a change.
WABC News Time 523. The United States and China continuing their efforts to avoid an all-out trade war. Correspondent Laura Westbrook reports top officials from both countries continue talks in London, hoping to come to some sort of deal.
President Donald Trump indicated that the first day of talks were encouraging, telling reporters that he was only getting good reports. The U.S. says China has been too slow to release exports of rare earth metals and magnets.
Yeah, and those are essential for manufacturing a variety of items, including smartphones, electric cars. China's concerns include access to high-tech American products, such as computer chips and student visas for Chinese students.
China, on the other hand, wants greater access to advanced American technology, such as AI chips, as well for the White House to grant more visas for Chinese students.
Yeah, so the two sides agreed on this initial trade pact in Geneva last month, but the U.S. claims China's been slow in releasing shipments of rare earth minerals that are desperately needed here. 524, let's bring it back home. The search continues today for a missing toddler in the Bronx, as there are now fears the boy's father may have thrown him into the Bronx River.
The 20-year-old father of 2-year-old Montrell Williams is now in custody after he refused to tell a judge where his son was in a family court hearing. Montrell's mother reportedly saw the father over the weekend, and when she asked about their son, he pulled out a knife and told her he had thrown the 2-year-old into the river. The NYPD's Internal Affairs Unit is also investigating the department's handling of the initial case.
Now, we're hearing, too, that there is apparently video, because there's cameras just everywhere, of the father throwing some sort of bag into the Bronx River. So he may have done what he says he did and told his wife he did. 525, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth testifying before members of the House yesterday, facing grilling from Democrats over the deployment of the National Guard to Los Angeles as the city deals with those anti-ICE protests.
Why are you sending war fighters to cities to interact with civilians?
Every American citizen deserves to live in a community that's safe, and ICE agents need to be able to do their job They're being attacked for doing their job, which is deporting illegal criminals.
Now, at one point, Hegseth recalled the 2020 protests, remember the ones in Minneapolis. While answering questions, he says the Minnesota governor at the time, Tim Walz, abandoned a police precinct, let it burn before mobilizing the National Guard. And at that point, he says it was too late. WABC News Time, 526. Apple's new software is focusing on design aesthetics over artificial intelligence.
Tech giant revealed its liquid glass design for the software powering iPhones, iPads, and Macs that will bring a transparent aesthetic to tabs, files, and app icons. It comes at a time when most of the tech industry is building new artificial intelligence systems into devices. But the company did not completely abandon AI pursuits. It announced that its Apple Intelligence system will add abilities, such as allowing apps to use the AI capabilities built into its devices. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour. Talking the news with Noam Laden. All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now, Talking the News with Noam on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Wednesday, June 11th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. A mix of sun and clouds today. The high going to be 84. Tonight and overnight, clear, low 69. And then warmer for Thursday, sunshine, high 89. If you're walking out the door with us right now, so happy you are. 62 clear in Rye up in Westchester County, 64 clear in Homedale over in New Jersey, and it's 65, a little foggy right outside our Midtown studios. WABC News Time 5:38 in the race for mayor. A big endorsement yesterday. Former Mayor Michael Bloomberg weighing in. He said he would tell New Yorkers to choose Andrew Cuomo. Of course, it's big because it comes just 2 weeks before the primary. Of the former mayor pointing to the work that Andrew Cuomo did renovating LaGuardia Airport, opening the 2nd Avenue subway, the creation of the Moynihan Station as proof that he can get long-stalled projects finally done. So Andrew Cuomo, of course, excited to pick up the endorsement. He spoke to Eyewitness News yesterday.
Mike Bloomberg showed that management experience matters. He was a manager. He wasn't a politician. He had run a very large organization, run it very well, and he managed the city well. Things worked. And he understands that a mayor has to be able to manage. A mayor needs experience.
Yeah, and Cuomo says, yeah, this is big. You know, he didn't see it coming, yes.
That's who's running for mayor now, people who have no experience. And frankly, we've had mayors with no management experience whatsoever.
And Cuomo's biggest opponent in the primary, polls show the race close between him and Zohran Mamdani. Mamdani releasing a statement yesterday saying the billionaires are consolidating around Andrew Cuomo. Some of the Democratic mayoral candidates weighing in on these violent ICE protests out in Los Angeles as they gear up for another debate that'll take place tomorrow night. Here was Cuomo talking about those demonstrations.
This is Trump being Trump. He started in L.A. It will happen in New York.
Zohran Mamdani was asked what he would do right now given those violent protests.
The first thing I would be doing is having a conversation with Kathy Hochul, who has shown the ability to not only take on Donald Trump, but to win.
City Comptroller Brad Lander, who I think is third in most of these polls, here's what he says.
We need a mayor who can do two things, who can stand up to Donald Trump on behalf of New York's values, and who can govern the city more effectively so we can live up to New York's values.
7 Democratic candidates all running for mayor will go at it tomorrow night, 7 o'clock on New York 1. Early voting, that begins on Saturday. Over in New Jersey, we now know who's going to be the top candidates for governor in the race that comes November. It is Mikie Sherrill. She won the Democratic primary last night, the congresswoman. And Republican Jack Ciattarelli gets another shot at it in the general election. Governor Murphy, of course, term limited out, can't run again.
And to our most well-known part-time New Jersey resident who honored me with his endorsement and strong support, thank you, President Donald J. Trump.
That was Jack Ciattarelli at his election night party last night in Homedale. According to the group Ad Impact, this has been the most expensive primary contest ever in New Jersey. $88 million spent in the lead up to the election. It might have been just sent on those pieces of paper that showed up in my mailbox every single day. It was unbelievable. More than 148,000 New Jersey residents voted early. Another 330 voted by mail-in ballots. Mikie Sherrill, she's the 53-year-old fourth-term congresswoman. She's a graduate of Annapolis, a former Navy helicopter.
This country,
helicopter pilot, I should say,
is too beautiful to be beholden to the cruelty and self-interest that Jack and Trump are trying to hoist on her.
All right, so Sherrill emerged from this crowded field of 6 candidates that included Newark Mayor Ross Baraka, who came in second last night, Jersey City Mayor Stephen Fulop. She went on the attack last night against Jack Ciattarelli. He did the same against her.
Democrats have controlled our state legislature here in New Jersey for 25 years. And for the last 8 years, they and the person they nominated tonight have rubber stamped and enabled every extremist and costly idea Phil Murphy has put forth. Make no mistake, Mikie Sherrill is Phil Murphy 2.0.
Yeah, so they're both laying out what will probably be some of their campaign themes over the next couple of months.
We built a nation, and people say the scars we have are ugly. We fund this nation, and yet Trump and MAGA Republicans in D.C. want to raise your taxes and take away your health care and education dollars. The president comes here nonstop to his golf course, and he calls our state a horror show.
All right, so it's Mikie versus Jack come November. 5:43. Let's bring it back here into the city. A major change is coming to New York City's rental market beginning today. The end of costly upfront broker fees for most tenants searching for apartments. If you're somebody who's a renter, you know about this. The Fairness in Apartment Rental Expenses Act goes in effect. It mandates that broker fees be paid by whoever hired the broker, which is most often the landlord or the property management company, not the prospective tenant. And when you hear from tenants, for the most part, they say they think this is a good thing.
I don't think tenants should bear the burden of what the landlord is paying the broker.
I'm very happy about that. It definitely makes it easier. It's expensive to live here. It's expensive to find apartments. It's expensive to move apartments.
So here's the city council member who created the FAIR Act, citing rising housing costs as his motivation to create the bill.
Broker fees are, 10 to 15 to 30% in some cases of a New Yorker's annual rent. And that truly prohibits people from moving from one apartment to another.
Now, this bill faced very intense opposition from landlords, including the Real Estate Board of New York. A judge denying the board's attempt to stop the FAIR Act from going into effect. Here's more from the city councilman also.
I truly believe that this bill will put bargaining power into the hands of tenants.
Now, landlords will tell you, well, this is what they're going to do, is they won't charge those upfront fees, that the broker fees, obviously that they will now have to pay. And so they'll take those broker fees and they'll just put them into the monthly rent. But tenants say, well, that'll be easier to pay than doing the upfront fees, which a lot of times are just thousands of dollars. All right, 5:45. Let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk where we find Justin Ellett.
Thank you, Noam All In. Starting on the diamond in Queens, Jeff McNeil doubled home the winning run in the 10th inning, and the Mets rallied past the Washington Nationals 5-4 in the opener of a 3-game series between the NL East foes. Juan Soto hit a solo homer and an RBI double for the Mets against his original team. He also threw out a runner at home plate from right field. Pete Alonso delivered a tying single in the 8th. And after Soto's 2-out double trimmed it to 4-3, New York, which has the best record in the National League, has won 4 straight and 13 of 16 to move 19 games over 500 for the first time since finishing 101-61 in 2022. Up next for the Mets, the lefty David Peterson gets a start in tonight's middle game of this 3-game set with Washington, set for a 7:10 p.m. first pitch from Citi Field in Kansas City. Austin Wells hit a 3-run homer and finished with 5 RBI. Aaron Judge hit the third longest homer in the majors this season, and the Yankees routed the Royals 10-2 in the opener of a 3-game series. Max Fried bounced back from his first loss of the season, pitching 7 innings of 2-run ball for New York. Wells matched his career high for RBI in a game. Judge added a bloop RBI single in the 6th when the Yankees put the game away with 5 more runs off the KC bullpen. Cody Bellinger drove in one of them with his 1,000th hit of his career. Judge has reached safely in 61 of 65 games this season, including every game the Yankees have played on the road. Up next for the Yanks, Clark Schmidt will start tonight's middle game of this 3-game set with the Royals, set for a 7:40 p.m. first pitch from Kansas City. And we're looking ahead to tonight on the hardwood, 8:30 p.m. tip-off between the OKC Thunder and the Indiana Pacers.
Who's going to win
Indiana? Game 3, I'm going with OKC. They ran roughshot on the Pacers there in Game 2. I think they'll get another road win here tonight. And no, they were home in the first 2 games. So I think they'll continue the momentum here from Game 2.
You putting money down on this game?
8:30 p.m. tip. Probably won't be able to watch, so no.
No. All right.
Yeah, I'll be long gone, in asleep.
They'll steal one in Indiana, and they'll go up 2-1.
Yeah, I think so. I think working off of Game 2, all they did there, that momentum, I think they'll get the job done tonight. We shall see, though.
All right.
That is your Sports Gnome. I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:49. Let's go out to Queens. The NYPD. This guy's a creep. Looking for a man who's stopping women in Queens, telling them they have a spider somewhere on their bodies, and then using the guise of a good Samaritan to grab their butts. You can't make this stuff up. Authorities have reported at least 2 incidents, but they think there's a lot more. According to the investigation, a 25-year-old woman walking home around 11 p.m. approached by this guy, Astoria Boulevard, 22nd Street, did the thing, told them they had a spider on her, proceeded to grab and slap her buttocks, and then did the same thing to another 25-year-old woman about 20 minutes later. Cops believe there are other victims out there, and they're asking them to call the NYPD to report their crime so they can get a better description of this creep. 5:50. Just a god-awful story out of the Bronx. This missing 2-year-old boy we've been telling you about for a number of days. His father had visitation rights, took him home. He has not been seen in a month. Now police believe that this dad threw this 2-year-old child into the Bronx River. Detectives have reason to believe the 20-year-old father of little Montrell Williams threw him into the river near the Bruckner Expressway. In fact, they believe so much so that NYPD divers were in the water yesterday amid that rainfall. Detectives reportedly have surveillance video that shows Montrell's father throwing a black bag into the river. I mean, just so heartbreaking. The child's grandmother, she's been walking up and down the river doing her own search, clinging on to some hope. Now, Montrell vanished on May 9th after a custodial visit with his father. The mother's just 17 years old. Not clear why nothing was done till now. Now, the grandmother says she went to police right away when it was her son, or her grandson, I should say, did not return the child, and she said police didn't do much to help her. She also says that she got into a fight with her grandson, and that's when he stormed off, she thinks, with the child.
Me and him had a conflict. I'm in my room. My cousin told me that my son took the baby. I went downstairs to chase him. He was gone.
Now, he apparently then went to this 17-year-old mother. I mean, 2 people too young to be having kids, pulled a knife on her, then told her the story of throwing the child into the river. She told police, and that's what started the search, them looking at video. Here's more from the grandma.
I went to the precinct. They didn't help me.
We're still investigating all actions, the actions of the dad, the actions of officers who responded. But right now, our goal is to try to find the child.
Yeah, of course, that second voice is Mayor Adams. Montrell's father in jail. While they try to figure out this whole story, the 20-year-old has not been criminally charged, but the thought is that when they find this child, he will be. 5:52. Up in the Bronx, an MTA worker attacked while on the job in Longwood. This was the middle of the day, by the way. It was 12:30 yesterday afternoon at the Whitlock Avenue station on the platform. 36-year-old woman was slashed in the face with some sort of unknown sharp object by a man as the train was in the station. Video shows the worker with her face covered by a white blanket as she was escorted into an ambulance by first responders. We don't know what motivated this attack. It just could be nothing, that this guy went up and decided to slash a worker. And riders, of course, say these kinds of attacks are incredibly upsetting.
Not always safe, but we just got to pay attention a lot.
One thing could happen here, next thing you know, Brooklyn Bridge, someone could get assaulted or whatever. I just keep my head on the swivel just in case.
Yeah, we checked in with the NYPD. Since the start of this year, there have been 200, and now I'm going to point out, it's just June. There have been 225 felony assaults in the transit system, 93 assaults on police officers and MTA workers. That according to the NYPD. Police say this attack, or this latest one, they don't know what his motive was, and they've yet to find him yet. 5:53. Let's go out to Long Island. Victoria Huerman, that is the daughter of Rex Huerman, telling the producers of this Peacock documentary series that she's in, that's called The Gilgo Beach Killer House of Secrets, now believes that her father, Rex Huerman, is the guy who allegedly killed 7 escorts over the last decade or so. So there's this new documentary out. I hear it's quite good. Here's her lawyer, and then you'll hear Victoria after her lawyer speaks.
She now believes that her father may be the Gilgo Beach killer. Feelings and her emotions have evolved.
Say if they really did happen down here, he really must have been like Superman. For us not to have noticed anything ever.
Yeah, so she's amazed. She says, okay, if any of these crimes happened in our house out on Long Island, how did we not know it? It was a Massapequa Park. Huerman was arrested, you'll remember, in July 2023, previously pleaded not guilty to the killings of all 7 victims, including the Gilgo 4 and 3 others. Now, his wife, as we told you yesterday, does not believe this story, and she goes into detail in this documentary where she believes the man she still calls her husband, who she talks to behind bars, she calls him a hero, actually, says that they have the wrong guy. They framed her husband.
She's not able to process that.
No freaking way is this man going out soliciting sex from a sex worker, killing them, and dumping them on Gilgo Beach.
Okay, so now I got to go home and see, of all the streaming services I have, which I've lost count of, if Peacock is one of them, so I can sit down and watch this documentary. 5:55. What has it been with the summer so far? It's rained almost every single weekend. Have you noticed that? In fact, I'm looking at the forecast. It is expected to rain again this weekend. And of course, that's terrible for businesses at any beach town. True down at the Jersey Shore as well. They have this short period of time between June and maybe early September to make all of their money. But it has rained almost every single weekend. In fact, it was raining over the last couple days. And here were some people down at Belmar Beach who say they had rented a place, and so they went down anyway.
We knew the weather was not the best. But we'd off from school, so we wanted to come down to the beach.
We planned this like a week ago. We're not going to cancel it.
Yeah, those folks talking to News 12. Since March 1st, there have only been 4 rain-free weekends. 2 of them, by the way, were early March, and I don't even know if you can really consider that the season. The shoulder season really begins, let's say, May to September in Keansburg. This guy who owns the Keansburg Amusement Park says this is the time of year where everybody makes their money, including workers. And you can't keep everybody on the job if it's raining every single weekend.
There's so many families here that depend on their children making a good wage so that they can help the household. We need bright sunshine, 85 to 90 degree weather, 7 days a week.
Now, he says out of the 3 summer weekends so far, his water park has had just 4 hours of business. The rides, they fare better because people will still get on them in the rain. But he's like, come on, man. I need, it can rain during the week. That's okay. But the weekends are everything. And again, I see rain in the forecast for Saturday and Sunday.
Every weekend matters in the shoulder season because it really helps establish what we need to do for the summer.
Now, he said he's hopeful because he's seen this before that maybe everything after this will be just downright beautiful.
Thanks for listening to the News Hour with Noam Laden. You can hear the News Hour with Noam Laden weekday mornings at 5 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?